Welcome back, everybody, to the Don't Go Out There Horror Movie Review Podcast. Just want to thank all our fans and listeners. Really appreciate all support. You guys are awesome. Before we get into tonight's blood donor review, just want to give a shout out to our website, don'tgoouthere.com. We got everything that you need to know about this podcast on there. We've got all of our episodes, our interviews if you want to listen there. We've got our store if you want to get some merch or a Tumblr. We got Shan's Tumblrs, her Etsy page attached there. Check that out. She's awesome. And we've got all of our celebrity shout outs, our blog, if you want to check those out. And we have all of our social media links. Social media runs this world now, it seems. So give us a follow on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. We love interacting with our fans, so definitely hook up with us there. We've gotten to meet a lot of really cool people all across the world. That's why we're doing this review tonight. So definitely check us out on social media. Last shout out is our blood donors, our form of a Patreon. We have a traditional kind that, really helps us pay for the podcast, our site hosting, our what we record on, website, all that good stuff. And we have the one-time donation if you want us to review a movie, like you really, really want us to review your favorite movie or a movie from your childhood, etc. Or if you want to come on our show with us and review it with us, we have both of those options available. So, like I said, we love our fans, so that's the best way to keep in touch with us. Tonight is, like we said, a blood donor review. Go ahead. What's that, Mike?
Good transition, Nico. So that's a radio style transition right there, brother.
Hey, man, after about 190 episodes, you get pretty decent at this. But tonight is what we call a final girl, final guy blood donor review. Good friend of mine, I've gotten really to know her and her boyfriend, DaniCNaps and Joe Black. He bought this for her birthday. I think her birthday was honestly like in November, but we were just book, so we couldn't really get to it, but they were cool about it, so I appreciate their patience. But we're reviewing a guilty pleasure movie of hers. Is 2011's Grave Encounters. When we posted our monthly agenda of episodes we're doing, we know we got a decent amount of feedback that the fans like this one, or it's one of their guilty pleasures. Danny loves it, and I'll read her review at the end of the movie. I'll go first. I'm sorry, Danny. I love you. Love Joe. Really, really quite fond of you, but I'm not quite fond of Grave Encounters. I'm sorry. And it's not even really the found footage aspect. There's just a lot of stuff that doesn't make sense to me. And especially if I haven't seen Grave Encounters 2, but I watched Found Flix's like his ending explain of this movie, and it goes on to explain that the ghost can just send these tapes in the mail randomly, like how they, I don't know. This movie just isn't that, I don't love it. I'm just going to be honest, but we're still going to review it. A lot of other people love it. Just because I don't, I'm nobody in this world. I'm just a random podcaster. But Brian, what'd you think?
Oh, I've actually been a sucker. I've always been a sucker for found footage movies. Again, I will die on the hill that they need to make a Friday the 13th found footage. But hell, at this point, I'd literally take anything from that franchise. Fuck you, Sean Cunningham. Anyway, off the rails right off the bat. But I used to watch these ghost hunter shows when I still lived at home. My mom still watches these ghost hunter shows religiously. I actually have one distinct memory of, I think it was Ghost Adventures, but I watched that. It really stuck with me, and it still does. It was basically them investigating this old well or something. I don't know. But once they found out it was a demon, they hauled ass and were like, no, it's a demon. We don't mess with that. So that's always like resonated with me for some reason. I don't know why. Anyway, this is basically a parody of that. And you have to kind of understand that. I mean, Ryan Hollinger on YouTube is great. One of the few YouTubers I actually listen to. But he hit it on the nose, I think. He said, this works better as a film when you understand the context behind it, besides taking it at face value. And I think that's absolutely true. I don't think it's bad at all. I think it's a fun little movie. And I liked that I was able to really find that childhood nostalgia in it, and allowed myself to kind of be pulled into it for most of the movie. Now, there's some stuff that I would have definitely done differently. The ending isn't very good to me, but I thought it was a fun flick for the most part. I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum from that.
Surprise, surprise. I'm going to go somewhere right in the middle of you two. So, and it's not because I wanted to, because I normally like to come down hard on a side if I can. But this movie is lukewarm to me for a couple reasons. Like you mentioned, Brian, the first 40 minutes or so work really well as a ghost hunter show parody. as far as kind of peeling back the curtain and what those shows are probably actually like behind the scenes, at least in my opinion. As someone who's not a believer, I feel like I have to clarify that every time we do a movie that involves ghosts, because every podcast is someone's first. So I kind of think that those ghost hunter shows are exactly what this movie kind of makes them out to be. To me, when the movie kind of flips and becomes Paranormal Activity meets Blair Witch, I become less of a fan of what's going on. I think it drags a little bit in spots, and it's only an hour and 32 minutes, so the whole movie doesn't drag. Honestly, the first 40 to 45 minutes, I think, kind of fly by. But the rest of the film kind of starts to be weighed down because it comes across to me as just another typical found footage movie after that point. There's some good stuff. There's some good shots. There's some not so good effects. We'll talk about the hands coming from the wall when we get to them. But overall, I just think it's so. And I like found footage. Now, I came on here really early on in our run and kind of shit all over Blair Witch Project. I wasn't alone in that, by the way, Nico.
Rightfully so.
Should have been alone in that.
But I'll say, outside of that, I normally like found footage flicks. I'm a big fan of Creep and Creep 2. I don't know if you guys have ever seen those, but those are awesome. I love Paranormal Activity, which I've already talked about on this show. I even like Paranormal Activity 2. So I have the Encounters of the Fourth Kind. Excuse me. I like that movie as well. Or I think it's just called The Fourth Kind now. I think it's just The Fourth Kind for short. It's an alien invasion movie that a lot of people hate, but I thought it was really good. It was done. Yeah, it was The Fourth Kind, right?
Well, there's Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Yeah,
I've never heard of just Fourth. I've never heard of just Fourth Kind. I've never.
I'm going to pick it down the road. If you're listening and you know what The Fourth Kind is, send a clip of it to Brian because he'll end up laughing and hate. I don't think Brian's going to like that movie. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Is it like Mars Attacks?
No, it's found. Oh, okay. It's like an alien found footage film. But anyway, yeah. So all in all, I think there's enjoyable stuff here. I think some of the acting is really good, especially the lead character. Lance Preston is a kind of a fun character to follow throughout the whole movie. But outside of that, there's just so much stereotypical found footage. It's kind of after you get past the whole parody part, it kind of becomes something I've already seen before. And to me, it just got what I consider to be a movie's worst sin, and that is it got boring, which is unfortunate. There's a lot going on, and I'm just not bought in to the story.
Any more opening thoughts before you just jump into the scene by scene? All right, let's get it. The film starts with Jerry Hartfield, an executive producer, introducing himself. He says a tape arrived in the mail called Grave Encounters. It's about exploring haunted places. It stars Lance Preston. And I'll just go ahead and say found footage flicks are super hard to take notes on, so I'm going to do it my best just as I can. We now see Lance on the screen investigating paranormal sites and introducing his crew as he does his opening dialogue. Jerry says the network was very excited for the show, and it was doing well until episode 6. What you're about to see is not a movie. It's real, and it's over 76 hours. It's only edited for time. We now watch the movie. Episode is titled The Haunted Asylum. We now see the crew setting up, and Lance is about to do the intro for the show with the asylum in the background. He starts his intro and is rudely interrupted by a car driving on the street behind him. He now describes the asylum. Over 80,000 of Maryland's most insane patients were in this hospital. There were complaints of apparitions. He says tonight he and his crew will be in the hospital for 8 hours of lockdown during peak haunting hours. Lance now meets Morgan Turner, a local town historian who now tells the camera when the hospital was built. It was built in 1893. It was built to address the overgrowing mental patients. We now see clips of patients in the hospital, and it's not a good sight. Lance now asks about Arthur Friedkin. He was head physician. He performed around 140 lobotomies. One night, 6 patients escaped their room and stabbed him to death. The news was overshadowed by the death of Babe Ruth. Lance asked Morgan if he believes in ghosts. He says he's not sure, but if they're real, this would be a good place to look. Kenny now takes them inside as he unlocks a chain, and we see the words "Death Awaits" written on the door. The crew think it's cheesy. They enter the asylum, and Lance loves it. Matt says it's creepy as shit. Kenny is the caretaker, and Lance asks if he believes the place is haunted. Kenny says he's seen some weird things and he heard weird things. He says he gets the sense he's not alone. They now roam the hallways, and they can't believe how dark it is, especially since it's still daytime. Kenny shows them a window that will be wide open at times, even when he makes sure it's locked. Lance marks it as a paranormal hotspot. We now see a room that's been written all over it, and they now get to a room with a bunch of overturned bathtubs. Kenny tells them of a patient who killed herself in a tub in this room. Kenny now takes them to the service tunnels. Lance says this is exactly what I was looking for, and you could easily get lost in here. Kenny tells them of a time it got cold and eerie, like someone was watching him. Lance now interviews Gary, a contractor, about his time working at the place. He tells them of some supernatural phenomena. They heard weird noises, their tools would disappear, and one guy was seemingly pushed off of a ladder by a ghost. Lance now explains the residual haunting and intellectual haunting. Lance now interviews a couple that used to hang out in the hospital a lot. He tells Lance of a time he swears he saw someone in a hospital gown at the end of the hall. Lance now interviews a lawn guy and asks him some questions about seeing strange things around the building. He says he hadn't seen anything, but Lance bribes him into making something up for the show. Javier now says he saw a ghost, obviously making it up. Lance stresses this is a paranormal hotspot like they've never seen. We're now introduced to Houston Gray, a psychic, hired by Lance to check the place out since the building is so massive. Houston says there is something else here, like a dark spirit or demon. He says they shouldn't be messing with something like this, and we have to be cautious. He now says he feels deep, profound sadness here, and he sees a girl in bloody red water who died right in here. Lance tells him that's incredible. They cut and laugh how great that was. Sasha asks Lance how he feels about episode 6. Lance asks TC if they can get a cool time-lapse shot of the building. All right, go ahead, Brian. That's the opening scene.
Yeah, I think we all pretty much agreed off air how hard it is to do found footage, like to take notes on. So bear with us. I think we had a little bit of a hard time doing it this way. Let me just start off by talking about Sean Rogerson. I think he does a good job with the character. He's really the only one that gets really flushed out and actually has a good arc, I think, throughout this. He was in Underworld Evolution, by the way. I love the Underworld movies. Just quick plug for that. But anyway, I know that the directors, and others have vehemently denied that this whole thing is basically based on, or I wouldn't say spoof. Let's go with parody, I guess. I don't know. I don't love that, but a parody of Ghost Adventures, and that Lance Preston is basically Zach Baggins. I'm not sure how you can watch this, especially this opening and everything involved, and not see that it clearly is. But okay. But Lance, I will definitely give credit for his arc and how he goes from this like sensationalistic reality show host guy worried so much about the product to like a genuinely terrified person. A lot like Heather in Blair Witch Project. I keep calling it Blair Witch, but that's the 2016 movie, Blair Witch Project, which you can clearly see the homages to in here. Homages, that's the word I was looking for earlier. Homage to the Ghost Hunters. There we go. And let me just say this, as a content creator ourselves, and I'll just speak for myself. I get it. I mean, I get his struggle and how he's, conflicted with the product he's trying to create, and also with the reason he started this in the first place. I mean, his genuine belief in this stuff. I mean, he's an asshole about some of it, though. I mean, we're just going to pick it up from there. I'm not doing that beginning part again. I don't know. He does come across as an asshole at the beginning for sure. So this was a wild idea I had while I was watching this, especially this first part. What if this was like a time paradox? Like when the caretaker shows the window always being opened, that would have been some trippy shit, I think, if like at the end you find out that it's them trying to get out and leaving the window open every time, since, time works differently in there. I don't know. Just a thought, something that popped in my head, energy drink infested mind while I was watching this. I don't know. It might've been cooler. But all of this feels real. I'm sucked in right now. It definitely has me. I mean, some of these people like Arthur and Kenny, the caretaker, genuinely feel like some rando person being interviewed. I mean, so props to Arthur Kober, Bob Rathy, both of them on their performances as well. Both of these guys actually were in R.L. Stein's The Haunting Hour series on Hub back in 2012 together as well. Just saying. I know before I get out of here, I gotta say I died laughing at the Gardeners interview. Yeah, I saw a ghost. It was really scary. I know. I died laughing. Again, I'm just feeling all this nostalgia from watching these shows, and it feels like I'm home already, if that makes sense. Definitely a lot of foreshadowing also in this is this is like what I always like to say, like, don't fuck with that. Like, don't fuck with demons, and you get what you get. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, so I like this little open from the network guy where he kind of explains, exactly what we're about to watch. It's an exposition dump, and I think, coming in to the movie right here, we kind of need a little bit of explanation. So I like that. And then again, I already gave Sean Rogerson, who plays Les Preston, some flowers in my intro, but right off the bat here, he's got his character is interesting. You mentioned his struggle with, obviously he believes in his product. He wants to do this show for a reason. But as we come to find out, as this stuff goes along, that some of this stuff is a little bit stretched as far as what the truth is. And look, that's any reality show. I think everyone that watches a reality show knows that. For an example, you look at the first season of The Real World, everyone kind of got along. And then the people at MTV said, it'd be a lot better for TV if everyone fucking hated each other. Let's put those people in a house together. Yep. And so it's kind of been like that ever since. So even with these shows, obviously, paying people to tell a story, getting an actor to play a medium, which I think ends up being funny in certain places in this movie. Like that character I really enjoy because he's a good actor as far as the medium, but I'm sorry, there's no other word. He's kind of a wuss throughout this whole thing, man. But anyway, so, I like how we got the character arc of Lance Preston going. A lot of these other characters, though, to me, kind of feel forgettable. I kind of forget who's who like what their jobs are. And I think that's at the detriment of the film because, as we know, you can watch a bad Friday the 13th for killing just teens on screen and, Jason's victorious at the end. But I at least like to have some decent characters in my slasher movies. So same kind of goes here. I need more than one to kind of come across on screen, and you just don't get that. You get Sasha and Jennifer and Matt and all these. And now Caretaker Kenny is kind of a fun character. He's not in the movie very much, but I think it's kind of a fun character. But after that, it's just kind of, these are just characters on screen that I'm not super invested in, and they're on there to die. And you could kind of see that coming a mile away, which is something else that I don't like. One more thing that I have, the Dr. Friedkin, hello. That's an Easter egg to William Friedkin if I ever heard one. That's some spot on stuff, and that's good. I like that that's in there. As soon as I heard that, I was like, you thought you were going to get that past me. I don't think they were trying to get it past me. But anyway, so far I'm invested for the same reasons that you are, Brian. Not because I have nostalgia for those Ghost Hunter shows, because just between you and me, I don't think I've ever watched one of those Ghost Hunter shows. The only time I ever saw any of those was the previews on Sci-Fi or USA Network when they'd show them while I was watching wrestling. So, and they'd bring somebody like Booker T on there and make him run a mile because some door opened and Booker T didn't like that shit. So like, that's all that I really know them from. But I'm at least invested in this somewhat parodied, and that may not be the right term either, like you said, but it's definitely not a spoof. It doesn't go scary movie or, date movie or epic movie levels, but it's definitely kind of has a Scream vibe a little bit. Not in the meta sense. That's Grave Encounters 2, which I'm actually going to go out of my way to see because I heard it was meta, and we know how that shit goes down, son. Mike loves meta. Trademark it. And then when you're done listening to this show, go listen to some Dave Matthews, studio only. Thank you.
All right, Matt is inside the asylum now, setting up cameras throughout the hospital, specifically by the paranormal hotspots. He says the tunnels are creepy as shit, and he's getting out of there. Lance checks in with Matt, and Matt shows him the cameras they set up that has constant feed. He now shows him the EMF meter that detects paranormal activity. He goes on to explain more tools they'll be using tonight. Lance says we're about to commence lockdown. Kenny locks the place down now. TC is upset they're really locked in. Lance tells the camera this is the biggest and most dangerous location ever. He now explains they're trapped until Kenny comes to get them in the morning. All the windows are barred. They start to roam the halls and are in search of spirits. They get to the hallway where the couple saw the bald apparition. They get out the EVP and ask the spirits questions, but hear no reply. Lance tells the spirit it has nothing to fear and speak to us. Sasha says to open the window to give a sign. Lance now performs spirit photography to see if there are ghosts around. Sasha calls for the spirit that wrote on the walls. Lance sits in the tub and calls for the girl who killed herself. He says he's so creeped out right now. Matt hates he's alone on the computers as the rest of the crew calls for spirits in the tunnels. They hear this wailing noise and they head towards it. They open the door and see the room full of rats. Lance is pissed. He says this place is haunted as a sock drawer. They all gather upstairs and snack and jam to some tunes. We get quick cuts of the cameras and we see the window open up. Lance asks if they found ectoplasmic liquid on the wall. TC goes and checks out more rooms and finds a wheelchair randomly in a hallway. He gets a call and sets the camera down. He comforts his upset daughter and we see the wheelchair move. He picks the camera up and he gets jump scared when the door closes. He's pissed and now sees all the barred doors open. TC now shows the crew the room he was in and they question how it happened. They go and watch it on the film now. They call the film incredible. Lance now asks for the spirit to say something, make a noise, slam the door again. Please give us a sign, Lance says, and Houston now calls for the spirits. Lance grows frustrated, then they hear a loud banging noise. They go to check it out and see a hospital bed flipped over and the wheel is still spinning. They now hear noises on the floors above them. They go to check it out. They yell out it's not funny if they're fucking with them and they'll call the police. Sasha asks more questions on the EVP. They play it back and hear a noise and her hair is grabbed. Sasha panics and runs. They stop her and Lance is happy they've not gotten any footage like that before. We're on to something here. Lance has TC come with him as Sasha runs away. Lance tells the camera they found undeniable proof and they try to make contact. Houston says he thinks it's had its fun and is gone now. Lance has grown frustrated. Houston says it's toying with us and TC asks if we can go home now. Lance takes pictures and he says let's pack up and let's get out of here. We have enough footage. All right, go ahead, Brian.
So I meant to say this in the last set of scenes, and I saw people online, so I can't take credit for this, but they were saying that the medium Houston Gray, played by Mackenzie Gray, who is, by the way, he was in Man of Steel, great movie, loved it, looked a lot like a discount Mick Jagger, and now I can't unsee that. I mean,
He does. He absolutely
I'm
does.
sorry, he's going to be Mick Jagger to me the rest of this review, so that's what I'm talking about when I say Mick Jagger. I like the lack of soundtrack. Obviously, that's very reminiscent of two movies that you can probably think of right off the top of your head, The Blair Witch Project and the 7 out of 10 ranked on IMDb with almost 400,000 votes, Cloverfield. Just throwing that out there for the haters I work with. So, this is probably my favorite set of scenes. Everything is tension building and the stuff is minimal, which if you've listened to the show before, that's what freaks me out is kind of the minimal stuff, meaning that it shows less of the paranormal presence, and it kind of, but that whole thing kind of goes directly against what the directors were set out to do. I mean, they wanted to differentiate themselves from other found footage movies that was subtle with stuff like I like, and he wanted the demons to quote unquote visibly run at you and stuff. And to me, once it gets to that point, it does kind of lose me some. But I did think it was funny as hell with TC Gibson giving the cook my dinner, bitch, the glory hole, all that stuff. But it took me out of it a little bit. Like I didn't need that at that point. I wanted to continue to feel the tension because, it made the wheelchair moving not have the same effect that it really kind of should have to me. But I love the rest of it. I love how genuinely scared Ashley Grisco's Sasha seems to be. I think she does great acting. And Nico will hate this idea, but Mike, hear me out. Another sidebar, replace these demons with Michael Myers because you're showing him. Replace the hospital with Smith's Grove. Replace Grave Encounters with Dangertainment. And you just made a better Halloween Resurrection. Just throwing that out there. Go ahead, Mike.
That's basically one of the lost sequels. Like if you read the book Taking Shape 2, that's literally one of the sequels. And I was like, okay, I could get down with that. Better than Michael Myers' house. They have no business being in there. Anyway. Okay. So about this set of scenes, you hit the nail on the head with something you said. This part of the film, this chunk, is probably my favorite because after this, it starts to drag because we start to see things. And if you go and look at my found footage films that I enjoy, Paranormal Activity, that's theater of the mind. The whole movie is theater of the mind. And so in this chunk of scenes here, they do a really good job of slowly building tension. They use silence and just no music, creaky noises in the back, like stuff like that to kind of get me to build up in my head what I'm expecting to see. And that's why I like Creep, which is, basically about a weird guy that ends up being a creep. But he doesn't do a whole lot until the end. That's not like, it's not super unsettling until you realize everything's been unsettling, if that makes sense. So same thing with Paranormal Activity, and in this part of the movie, that they do a really good job. I like the scene again with the medium. It was like, the blood in the tub and all that stuff. Like I like that. That's the way they kind of have to yell cut, and they're all laughing like they pulled off something good. Like, I don't know. I thought that was pretty funny. But you're right. The stuff with TC, and I think he's okay. So I mentioned him the first set of scenes that kind of didn't get invested in any of the other characters. I'll make a slight adjustment on that statement. TC, I kind of do. You get his family phone call where he's calling his daughters, monsters aren't real. So that's like, I can connect to that. But this is a very stereotypical, unfortunate comedy relief character that I didn't think was necessary, kind of like you, where I feel the tension was so good with that wheelchair. As soon as I saw that wheelchair, I got excited. I'm like, okay, as long as they don't like have some half-naked weirdo granny lady in it from The Shining, then we're gonna be good. Like, we're gonna be good to go, And it's fine. But some of the stuff where he's walking through the rooms and glory hole, like, okay, I'm okay with a little comic break. But at this point, you've done such a great job building some tension that I'm invested at this point. Now, after this, the movie really does start to kind of lose me slightly. And we'll talk about that in the set of scenes. But I do like the fact, like you mentioned, the people that are a part of this feel legitimately scared. The medium, Sasha, even Lance, who's kind of wanting more, which again, he's a very conflicted character. He wants to get more footage because, holy shit, we actually have something now. Normally we go on these and have to stage shit to make it look like we have stuff. And now here we go, we finally have something. But on the other hand, realizing, oh shit, we actually have something. We should probably get the fuck out of here. And I like that conflict within him. So overall, it's a pretty good set of scenes. Just getting my suspense up, getting my heart racing a little bit. I'm excited about what's coming. And then, as in the wrestling world, they say that damn bell had to ring, because after this is where they do a little too much show me. My favorite version of our slasher heroes are when they don't overshow them. Freddy, when they keep Freddy in the shadows, he's much scarier. When they light Jason's mask more dark, I think he's scarier. Michael Myers, same thing, except he was driving a car across country, so what the fuck do I know? But anyway, sorry, let's go.
All right, the guys are heading back upstairs now and they keep getting lost. Lance radios for Matt to help them out, but he doesn't answer. TC sits down and asks when they'll be here. Lance asks, "You just going to sleep there?" The other three finally make it to the lobby with the others. Matt asks why they didn't answer his radios. TC says this is case in point why you don't lock the door. Lance tells Matt not enough time to upload footage. Let's all pack up to get ready for when Kenny gets here. Matt's now unhooking all the cameras throughout the asylum. He notices the open window and is freaked out. "What the fuck?" he says over and over. He radios to Lance about it and hears a noise. He yells out for Lance and thinks it's them fucking with him. Lance is talking to the camera again, saying it's almost morning and they haven't seen any activity in hours.
I was just going to say, Nico, real quick, I wanted to comment before I forgot because I didn't write it down. I had trouble seeing some of the stuff that was supposed to be happening in the night vision film. Like, I don't know if it was just the
Yeah.
illegal copy of the film I was watching, or which
Oh my
I
God.
mean,
Bro,
it was in
it was free
HD.
everywhere. It was
I
literally
know.
free
I did
Literally
everywhere.
watch.
free.
I watched it on YouTube. I'm just joking. Normally, I do use a different means, but it was on YouTube for free. Anyway, but I'm just saying, it was very. Normally when I think of like the movie Quarantine or whatever, that night vision, it's pretty crystal clear. I can still see what's going on, even in that movie that Brian made us do for his birthday. Okay, like when you
7
can
out of
still.
10.
Okay, that's nice. IMDb sinks unless it agrees with me. Um, but in this movie, I had a really hard time seeing what was going on in the back. So when like the windows open, I could barely tell. Like so I just kind of wanted to comment on that. I wasn't alone. I looked up online on Reddit to see if anybody else had an issue. They did. So it wasn't just me, but I know it was supposed to be grainy and real, but I felt like even at that point, what was this, 2011? They could have done a little bit better with the night vision being able to see. Sorry, Nico, didn't mean to interrupt, but kind of did. So go ahead.
They're probably using Androids. It happens.
Oh, we just lost half our audience. Half our audience. It's gone.
Just kidding, Android listeners. Just messing with you. All right, Lance is talking to the camera again, saying it's almost morning and they haven't seen any activity in hours. Lance radios for Matt after him still not showing up. Sasha says we need to try and find Matt. He could be hurt. Lance has Sasha and TC bring their cameras. We might as well film if we're going looking. They yell Matt's name over and over. They see Matt's equipment all over the floor and grow worried. Sasha says it's a terrible idea to split up. TC says this is stupid, Matt. Let's go. He continues to look through the rooms. TC walks up some stairs and turns around when he hears a noise. When he does, he's seemingly pushed by something down the stairs. He yells for Lance. They find him hurt on the ground. They're back to the lobby and he's yelling, and TC tells Lance to call Kenny now. And of course, Lance can't get a signal, and they all try now to no luck. TC gets a bed to try and break the door down. Lance says it's coming out of his rake. TC doesn't care and tells Lance to help him break the door down. They both ram the bed into the door repeatedly and finally break the door down. They're in shock because it doesn't open to the outside, it's into another hallway. They're so confused now it makes no sense. Sasha closes the door and it says death awaits just like the original doors. They find an exit sign in the doors and TC kicks it repeatedly. My man is sick of it, I wrote. They kick the doors in another hallway. TC now tries to break down a barred window, almost injuring his shoulder. Lance says to try and pry it open, but all his tools are outside. Sasha tells him it's 8:34, so Kenny is over an hour late. Lance now says it should be bright out. Nothing makes sense. They all begin to yell for help. Houston tries to explain why the time and light might have moved so far forward. TC thinks it's a joke. He calls it an electrical anomaly. They all go back to the lobby. All right, go ahead, Brian.
So this is actually the last set of scenes that I really like a lot without major issues in it. Now we talked about TC. I mean, he flips for me here. Like the dialogue for him at the very start of here, like continues to be bad. Like this looks like my living room after a fight with my girl. Come on, like that was come on, that was ridiculous. But here is where he flips for me and becomes real. I think he did a great job of acting. I think after he fell down the stairs. Now I will say that it looked like he broke something. And then when they're talking about the front door, like literally just perfectly fine. And I can't stand that. It's a pet peeve in one of my movies. Like if you're hurt, like you should be hurt the rest of the movie. It's called continuity. But, okay. He did do a great job, I think, though, after that, slipping into the insanity. Him basically having enough with everybody. I think it's very well done by him the rest, throughout here. Props to Merwin Mondesir. Who is probably the one, like I said, I relate to the most out of any of the cast members in this movie. He was also in The Recruit, Smoking Aces 2, and a movie I'm picking just as soon as I can, Lost Boys 2. And look, I know it's not PC. But the line when he calls Houston retarded at the end of this, I died laughing. Like, I don't know, but I think it's just because it was so unexpected. Like, it cracked my ass up. I think it was just because it was out of nowhere. It felt ad-libbed almost. It felt like it would genuinely said something like that. But that's all I have for this group of scenes. I thought it was well done with what they were trying to do here, and TC carried it, I think, with his genuine freaking out the whole time.
Yeah, I think that's part of my issue with this set of scenes, Brian, is that I'm not super invested in any character but Lance, and so the bigger chunk of this scene is carried by TC. And no offense to the actor, it wasn't his fault or anything. I just didn't quite buy any of the other characters. Now I will say him falling down the stairs, I thought was a pretty good jump scare. It wasn't one of those, there's a cat over here and the cupboard door slams behind somebody. Like, it was like a pretty good little scare. So I liked that. But man, it kind of started. This to me is, now they don't show too much of anything here, but we get to see some stuff, and then that just I'm telling you, and it's just a preference. But when I start to see stuff, it takes me out of it. Also, this is where it became really fucking difficult to take notes because I'm telling you, anything with this night vision, I had a hard time seeing. Maybe I should go to my optometrist. I don't know. But again, I just think this set of scenes had a little bit too much TC. Not necessarily trying to be funny, but having that stereotypical comic relief character starts to drag the movie down for me. And again, he does act scared. Like, he's genuinely terrified. He uses the R word that I don't use, but it still got a little pop out of me because it, in context, it was funny. And I just don't know. At this point, you've only given me one character to fully invest in, and so this is where it starts to lose me. Outside of the development with Lance and his not transformation, but we're about to get into it. But that's all I had on this set of scenes.
All right, Lance speaks to the camera and he says his phone says it's 1:12 p.m. He doesn't think it's right. He's very confused. He says they're just waiting for Kenny to show up. Nothing makes sense. He says he's going to take a nap. We see the crew sleeping, and all of a sudden the work light falls over, crashing on its own. Lance tells the camera we're in pitch dark now, and we see their food has rotted somehow. They have plenty of water, at least. Lance mentions the tunnels, but TC says he saw a fire escape, so they head upstairs to try and get to the roof. Lance and TC argue about how to get there. They get scared when they hear noises. They head up some stairs when they find a roof access sign, but they're devastated when they see a wall blocking it off. Lance says he's documenting everything because once they get out, people are going to want to see this. They find a map of the building, and Sasha shows TC this meter is going crazy. They hear more noises and hear screams now. They run into a room, and they see a bed move around and up and down by itself. They all run full speed away. We see them sleeping again, and Lance updates us, saying they couldn't find another stairwell. It's like the building keeps changing on them. He's worried about Matt. He says they're doing sleeping shifts now, so someone can always be on watch. We see the word hello scratched onto Sasha's back now. Lance hears a voice over the radio now. It says it's freezing cold, and now he's gone from the radio. They're all frantically looking for Matt, searching each room. TC says this is pointless, and they hear a voice. They think it's Matt. They run to it and see a woman in the room in the corner. She turns around and makes an evil face at them. They run out terrified. They hide in a closet. They hear loud wailing noises and are more and more scared. They say they lost him. We now see Houston got separated from the crew. A door opens on its own as Houston wanders blindly. The door now closes. He goes down another hall and is scared by a noise. Is anybody here? He shouts. We see Houston picked up out of nowhere and dropped. He gets back up and he's like launched down this hallway with a light force. Lance, TC, and Sasha are still in the room. He updates the camera and says he can't get Matt on the radio and they keep hearing crazy shit. He says, I don't know how much longer we're going to last. We're not alone anymore. Sasha is freaking out and Lance shows us their patient bracelets now. This is insane. They go back into the hallways. They see all the doors open now. They feel like they're walking in circles. Sasha tells Lance to stop with his making a TV show. Suddenly, a hand bursts through a window and grabs a hold of Sasha, and they run away scared. Sasha says she can't over and over and over again. And the next set of scenes are the ending. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, so the rest of this is, I mean, it's almost just going to kind of be quick on my end, like with just the likes and dislikes. I wasn't really sure what else to really say about it because, like we mentioned many times, it's kind of hard to take notes on this type of films. But the light falling, I thought was really good. I loved the slipping into insanity from the actors. Ashley Grisco's Sasha continues to do a great job acting, in my opinion. TC continues to be my favorite character. I love when he says "fuck you guys," and then he's like losing it over the roof access wall. I think that's very well done. I can really see here where Sean Rogerson does a good job with what I was talking about earlier, like with him genuinely seeming freaked out here. Even in his Blair Witch, I'm so scared to the camera montage moment, like it just needed a snot bubble, but whatever. I love the bed getting thrown at them, even the Freddy Krueger homage with the slashing up on Sasha. But this is where I start to have some issues with a movie that was really high, like 8 or 9 up to this point for me, in my opinion, as far as a rating out of 10 goes. It loses me when they find the girl patient in the corner, a la Blair Witch again, and it shows the demon face. I'll say I 100% would have rather had one of them like be possessed or keep the paranormal activity route. Even the real hand grabbing them, I didn't like that either. I needed invisible stuff for the 100th time. And why is my guy Mick Jagger walking through the hall without a light? Like no idea. I'm sorry, Mick. The acting there from him, I didn't like at all. I thought that was pretty bad. The supernatural whatever the fuck happened to him with the firework thing going on. I don't even know what the hell happened to him. Like besides him getting picked up, which I thought was a decent effect. Whenever he like just I don't know fell on a firecracker. I don't know what the fuck happened to him, but I didn't care for that either. I also didn't like the demon printing out the bracelets for them on the fucking HP laser jet he has. I guess in one of these rooms back here. I don't know. Um, and see, like I would just like to point out as well that Lance says that he's not making a TV show anymore. He's just documenting stuff, just like I would do if, say, I mean, I don't know, a monster attacked New York and I had a video camera. Just saying, Dustin. Um, so I know that wasn't really the quality of an in-depth review that was probably expected, but it's really hard for me to take notes in that regard, like repeating myself. So that's all I had on this.
Yeah, so I'm not gonna like completely correct what I said earlier because this isn't. I mean, this still has kind of lost me, but this set of scenes does have some stuff that I do like. I like the light falling. I think it's done really, really well. It's shot from a good angle with like up and down on it. Like it's really a fun way to shoot that, and I like the way the actors kind of reacted to that. Um, Now the roof access thing, I like that stuff's not where it's supposed to be, but to me that got a little confusing as the movie goes on. Like time works differently, doors aren't there, windows are opened or closed. Like there's no really good set of rules, and I felt like it became a little confusing. Not that I couldn't piece it together, that's fine, but I I just kind of felt like, of course they make it to the roof access and there's no door. Like, of course that's what happens. Like, very predictable. Not necessarily a bad thing, just a little unfortunate that it was a little bit hard to follow. I like this uh, knife cut, Freddy Krueger style thing in the back of Sasha. Like, I think that was a good effect. I think it works when you everything before we see the demon face and the patient in the corner, I think is still effective. Once I lose that theater of the mind, I know the entity that we're dealing with, it loses me completely. Once that it starts to take on that, once you put a face to it, if it's not really good, then I mean it's lost me. And so what really stands out is something that lost me is this hand, arm, whatever, coming out of the door. Like I thought the way it was shot was weird. Uh, the hand, which I'm sure was real, looked like a dummy prosthetic arm and hand though, and so I don't know like what happened there. But nothing really quite makes sense. They're trying to be ghost haunt, but then there's like criminally insane or mental patients. Like it doesn't really pick an avenue, as far as what's, being scary, because you have this patient, but you see she has a weird face. Like, it's just, it doesn't quite pick what it wants to do to scare us. And that's why I think Theater of the Mind would have worked so good for this movie. Having an invisible entity be what's scaring us, I think works so much better, because instead of picking something, they pick a bunch of different shit to try to scare us. And I just don't think it completely lands. And again, it is hard to follow and take notes on a found footage film. But when it comes to this one, this roof access thing really did, like, our stuff not being where it normally would be, and the time jump, it's 1 p.m., it's 8 p.m., like all that stuff really did start to kind of throw me off a little bit from being able to keep it in good continuity. But there's some stuff I did like in this set of scenes. They still built suspense and tension, but once we see what we're dealing with, I'm kind of like, okay, I would like to kind of see this thing wrap up here.
All right, here's the ending, y'all. Lance tries to pep her up, and we hear TC yell, "Holy shit," and to hurry up and get over here. He found Matt. Matt is sitting by a pillar in a hospital gown, and he's acting weird. They get Matt up after they hear another scream. They ask where he's been and where he got those clothes. Matt acts very paranoid and says there's a way out. We can all leave soon as we're better. I wasn't ready yet. Don't be sad. Everything is going to be okay. He'll help you too. Lance tells the camera they found Matt all fucked up. Sasha tells Lance she doesn't feel good. He says she feels warm. He gives her some water and to get some sleep. She says she won't be able to sleep again. Cut to black and we hear screams. We see hands reaching out the walls and roof, and they all run out of the room terrified. They make it to the room with the bathtubs. We see Matt staring into a tub of blood. We now see someone burst out the tub and grab TC and pull him under. They turn the tub over and see he's gone. Matt is laughing like a crazy person. Lance wipes blood off the camera and his face. The three are walking the hallways again and see blood handprint streaks on the wall. They hear crazy laughter and keep walking. They find an elevator and try to open it. Lance walks off after not getting the door open to find something to pry the doors open. He grabs a bar off the hospital bed and finds a bloody tongue on the floor. He now sees a patient in the corner of the ceiling looking down at him, and it screams at him. He runs back to them and pries the elevator door open. Lance grabs the camera and goes back towards the noises, and a patient runs at Lance and pounces on him. Sasha helps fight it off, and Matt laughs into the camera. We now see Matt plunge down the elevator shaft. They're devastated when they realize he jumped. They climb down the elevator shaft, and Sasha cries when they get to Matt's dead body. Lance gets the door open, and they make it to the tunnels. They start to walk the tunnels to try and make it to another building. Lance yells the junction should be here and tosses the bed rod. We see Sasha violently coughing up blood now. They keep trekking, and Sasha sits down. Lance props her up on his shoulder, and he tells the camera he doesn't know what day it is. His feet are killing him, and she won't make it. He yells, "Who's there?" as he hears another noise. We now see a fog or mist appear, and Sasha disappears in it, leaving only Lance left. He stands up, yelling her name and where she's at. The flashlight dies on him now. Lance speaks into the recorder, asking what it wants from him. He breaks down, listening to it back. He says he's running low on battery now. He asks if anybody is watching, and fuck you guys, this was for you. We now see Lance kill a rat and eat it, and it was disgusting. He's lost as he begins to laugh maniacally. He now wakes up and says he found a door. He goes through it and sees Freakin's lab. We see patient pictures all over, specifically lobotomy pictures. He keeps looking around, seeing tools and books, and a skull on the ground surrounded by candles. He turns around and sees the doctor and nurses. He looks up and sees the doctor right behind him, and it makes the demon scary face. He screams, "I know I'm not crazy." Lance turns the camera on and says, "I'm all better now. I can go home." For Grave Encounters, I'm Lance Preston, signing off, and the film ends with the end credits. All right, Brian, what'd you think of the ending? Do you like it?
Yeah, some of it, not really. Look, I liked them finding Matt. Just not with a robe on, stitched by the demon seamstress that was, in the fucking room next to the HB printer guy, or printer demon. Like that's what I wanted. I wanted some possession shit. I did think it was dumb that TC told him to stop fucking around, like they hadn't seen enough real shit to believe that he wasn't fucking around. That kind of stood out of place to me. The hands coming out of the walls, I hated. There's no other way to put that. I just thought it was dumb. The portal tub, I didn't care for either. The tunnels, I feel like, just served basically as a stand-in for the old house at the end of the Blair Witch Project. Also, I mean, I'm not real sure why, if you're Lance, you're dropping the metal bar when you go to see what that monster thing is, but okay. For some positives, Matt falling into the elevator shaft I thought was awesome. I definitely loved that touch. The visuals of Sasha puking up blood, I absolutely loved. I mean, that's kind of weird to say, but it looked really good. I'm and but man, I'm gonna need your punk ass to pick up Sasha and carry her. Not, oh, she's gonna not make it because she can't keep up. I mean, come on. And the very, very end with the smoke just taking her, I hated it. I hated that. She deserved better than that. But okay, I did say I'd end on a positive note. I liked the pitch black ending and the tape recorder playback. I just wish it would have been something like, I don't know, a demon voice answering his question, like, what does he want? Saying, like, you, and then that just be like the end. The eating the rat was disgusting as fuck. And I think the rest of the exploration after that just kind of got monotonous. So sorry, I know I said I'd end on a good note, but I mean, this didn't, so I'm not going to either. Go ahead.
Yeah, there's a few things I like here. I like the character of Matt slightly in this part because he's he's what I would have wanted if we're gonna have something visual to look at as what we don't like. I would have liked it for it to just be a possessed Matt the entire time instead of these other things that we get. And I think that his he's lost it kind of craziness would have worked a lot better than some of the other things that we got, especially at the very end. I'll get to that. But I like his laugh after the whole portal tub thing. It makes him seem like he's in on it, like he's crazy. I don't like the tub scene. I don't. Now, I think her coming out of the tub is a pretty good jump scare. It's not your standard fair one like I talked about earlier. Like, it's just, I thought they did a really good job of making it seem like it happened in real time instead of like waiting for it. You're expecting it. It just happened. And I did like that quite a bit. But I don't really like a lot of this stuff with Sasha and Lance here. Yeah, the coughing up blood thing is fine. And I'm glad someone in the movie needs to act like they've been hurt because she actually does as a character for the rest of the film after she gets cut. So like, I like that about her character. If she's coughing up blood, you're like, oh yeah, she's actually fucking wounded. And so she's having a really hard time. I'm going to slightly disagree with you here, Brian. I like the smoke. But I didn't take it as smoke. I took it as like an entity kind of coming out and wrapping around her and taking her away. Not necessarily, it did look like smoke, especially on that shitty night vision camera they used. But I didn't take it as actual smoke. I took it as some form, some ghost, some spirit or whatever kind of taking her away. That's the way I took it either. Now, that didn't make it better. When I viewed it through that lens, I thought it helped. And I kind of liked it a little bit. I'll be honest. I could have gone without this rat eating stuff. I think it was a little out of nowhere. And I know we get a little cliche. If you had a don't go out there bingo card, Descent into Madness would be on it for sure. And you can mark it off almost every episode. But his Descent into Madness kind of came out of nowhere. Like, yeah, he was acting a little funny, but I mean, him wanting to eat a rat because he's starving or whatever.
Yeah, before you get off the rat thing, like, tell me this. Why? I mean, this movie's rated R, okay?
Yeah.
Why are you showing a guy's tongue ripped out, okay? Not showing deaths, like, almost at all.
That is weird.
And then, but yet you're going to show them eating a rat. Like, show some deaths. If you're going to spend the money, like,
I agree. I mean, the rat is the best kill in the film. Anyway. I will say, but I just feel like it came out of nowhere. He's kind of normal, and now he's eating a rat. Like, I don't know. It felt a little out of place to me. This ending with the doctors, down there in their old operation room, like, okay, if that was the movie the whole time, I guess maybe I could have gotten behind it. I know they mentioned it earlier, what that mental hospital used to be. I just didn't need to see ghost figures of those people. I didn't see that as necessary. I wish we could have got a invisible whatever as our evil doer, and that would have been fine. We didn't, and I didn't care for it. I will say I did like the closing shot, though. I think that him being lobotomized essentially and still being able to sign off as Lance Preston, I thought was pretty good. I thought that was pretty clever. And I like when a movie cuts to, or kind of fades to black. I don't think it happens enough in cinema, honestly. I'm one of the only people that enjoyed the last episode of The Sopranos, so what do I know? Anyway, that's all I had. I thought overall, there's some stuff that I like, but I found this movie to get just a little boring to me because once we see stuff, it becomes a standard fare found footage film. And that's unfortunate because I do think it had some really cool ideas. I do want to see the sequel because I know they make it meta and they kind of, bring all the actors back or however they do that. I'm interested in that concept, but it doesn't have great reviews. Not that I ever listened to IMDb, sorry ass, giving Cloverfield a 7. So I should go check it out anyway.
400,000 visits.
400,000 idiots. All right, let's go.
Wow.
I'm just kidding, everyone. I hope you all enjoy the movies you like and go listen to Dave Matthews studio albums.
All right. We got any more final thoughts where you just jump into Facebook or Instagram and all that? All right.
Yeah, real quick.
Right.
Danny, I'm sorry. I'm sorry if I pooped all over your film. I certainly didn't mean to. I did enjoy watching it. It's not really my cup of tea. But I want to say thank you for getting me to watch it because I had never seen it until last week. So there you go.
Dang, 3 movies in a row Mike hasn't seen.
I know, man. I know.
Well, and you haven't seen Antlers. About to get 4 in a row.
Honestly, listen. When the movie is titled Grave Encounters, I'm not going to watch it. Not on purpose. I'm just going to be honest. It doesn't. That title doesn't grab me like other movies do. So, but I am glad that I did. At least it got me to want to see the sequel. So,
yeah. And before we jump into our social media, I got a question for you guys. What do you call a typo on a headstone? A grave mistake.
Grave mistake. Oh, yeah.
All right. I give this movie a 0. Danny, you can thank Nico. I'll see you guys next week.
All right. Seriously, we're jumping to Facebook now. Eric Doolittle commented, I got to be honest, I have no idea what this means because I've never played this video game. But he commented, Mom, can I buy this game called Outlast? Mom, we have Outlast at home. Pops in Grave Encounters. I don't know what that means. I don't know what that game is. Respectfully, of course. Let me jump on Twitter. I had it pulled up, but it disappeared on me. Thank you for that, iPhone. Appreciate it. I slandered Androids earlier, and I was doing this. But anywho, Sean Irwin asked, I saw this in Audition on a list of fate's worst in death. Would you agree?
Audition, yes. Audition, I definitely would put on it. I'd rather be dead than what happens to that man. I can just tell you.
I agree.
This, yeah, being lobotomized would not be great.
Yeah, this is pretty fucking miserable, to be honest with you.
I mean, if I agree.
All right, we'll knock out Instagram real quick. Our Missy Hutchinson Wall, legendary blood donor, we just reviewed her movie, Tourist Trap. Go check that out if you haven't listened to it yet. She just commented, the character of Houston Gray is hilarious. I think so, too. He's pretty funny at the beginning when he's doing his little psychic spill. He's good at that.
Yeah, he is.
DaniCNaps, the legend or the blood donor who chose this movie, she commented, I am so excited. Words cannot describe. This is one of my all-time guilty pleasure movies. I could put it on any day and enjoy it. Hope you guys had fun reviewing it. We always have fun reviewing movies, even if we like or dislike. I love making the show. And Joe Black Tattoos coming from.
I just want to apologize to Danny. I'm sorry I couldn't give more positive reviews. I really did try though.
Just wait till my rating, Mike. You'll be all right. Joe Black Tattoos commented, for my first watch of this movie, I hated it. I thought bad acting, bad writing, and cheap effects. I've seen this movie probably 5 times now, and I've realized that some of the bad acting is intentional. And while the writing is pretty bad, I feel like there is enough moments of improv to make it feel more polished than it actually is. I used to hate this movie, but now it is more of a guilty pleasure film. Manipulate my hair. All right. Appreciate you guys, all the comments. I don't have any fun facts. Do y'all got any? I don't have any fun
Yep.
facts. There really weren't that many on IMDb. There's only like 7.
No, I don't have any.
Mike, you got the budget? Money Mike, Organic Mike,
Yeah.
Mileage Mike.
Why do I have so many nicknames? Y'all got to pick one and stick to it, brothers. That's all I'm saying. Okay, so this movie, by the way,
we just rolling with it.
this movie was made for beanie weenies, bro. Like, you could have bought a lifetime supply of, like, it would cost you more to buy a lifetime supply of Easy Mac, bro, than it did to make this movie. $120,000 budget. And when I found that, it made me appreciate what they did a little bit more, not going to lie. Because I ain't going to lie, all those hands coming out of the wall look terrible. Terrible. All the hands. Now, just saying, they look like it's a really early episode of South Park where they ban fireworks in the city. And so everyone gets these little snakes that you like, and they're just like little black things that shoot out of a tube, and they kind of like snake out, and they're really lame. That's how the hands look coming out of the wall. And I was like, okay. But no, really, $120,000. That's incredible for a box office of $5.4 million. So that's a hell of a profit margin, my man. That's some pretty good stuff there for sure. And it got a sequel. So what the hell?
Yeah. Found footage is like the easiest one to make for cheap, I think. I think Paranormal Activity proved that, honestly.
Yeah.
Y'all ready to jump into favorite kill in the rating?
Sure.
Anybody want to go first? You want me to go first? Start this?
Yeah.
I'll just go first. I'll read Danny's last. I'll go first and I'll read Danny's last. That sound good?
Okay.
All right.
That sounds good.
Favorite kill, I just chose CT pulled into the bloody bathtub. At least you got to see some blood and you got a decent little jump scare. Least favorite, I chose Sasha just disappearing in the mist or the fog, whatever it was. I just wrote a little paragraph. Sorry, Danny. Just not a fan of found footage in general, but this one really wasn't for me. The positives, I think it starts off good. I think we've all established that. I like Lance and CT's arguing and, gnashing between each other. I think it's believable. Houston, I thought was funny with his little psychic rants during it. However, the movie, like Mike said, it just loses me and it just drags in some parts. The ghost demon face is just cheesy and it makes me think of like a Snapchat filter now. The kills aren't good and so much doesn't make sense to me. How does this last 76 hours with no family calling like an emergency? I mean, CT's family literally calls them, but nobody tries to find them. A crazy doctor and spirits can change the entire inside of the hospital. Kenny, the caretaker, how has he not been captured? He's been inside this more than anybody. So much just doesn't make sense to me, and it just gets monotonous and drags. And I just wrote this right at the end. Danny and Joe, I'm so sorry. I greatly appreciate the friendship, but I have to rate this a 3 out of 10. I'm sorry.
I'll go next, and then read Dustin's, and then Brian, and then Nico can come back around and read Danny's. I just want to say, it was mentioned in the comments that some of the bad acting and some of the illogical choices are done on purpose to make fun of ghost encounter shows early on in the film, or at least that's the way I took it. So I'm willing to forgive some of that stuff, even though I pointed it out, but I'm willing to kind of let it slide a little bit. Yeah, look, I like found footage for the most part when it's done correctly. And in this one, it's kind of a mixed bag. I think the idea on its face is really good to kind of parody those ghost hunting shows. And I think Lance Preston is an extremely strong character, but none of the other characters are super memorable to me. And the movie just became a little monotonous towards the end. Like, okay, they're running into stuff that's not there. We get it. Let's get to see what the payoff is here. But there's some good stuff in this movie. Good found footage stuff, good suspense building, tension building, a lot of good stuff. The movie didn't quite stick the landing. My favorite kill is probably the same as you, Nico, which is TC. just because I didn't expect that to be how he ended. Like he had been such an integral character in this whole movie, and to see him kind of go out like that in that tub of blood, I thought was pretty unique. Not something I was expecting. So that became my favorite kill. And my least favorite kill is Morgan because, like Brian mentioned, what was that energy blast or whatever green light that shot him? Like, I don't know. It just wasn't very satisfying as far as an on-screen kill when a lot of these kills we didn't even get to see. So I found that to be kind of odd, but the budget probably played a big part in that. All in all, not a bad film at all. It's one I'll probably rewatch a few times to see if I take it in a different way. But as of right now, I gave this a 6.75. Let's read Brother Dustin's real quick here. Dustin says, I like found footage when it's done right. What I mean by that is there are logical reasons that the whole experience would be documented on camera. I also agree with that. This one kind of doesn't, but anyway. My biggest gripe with Cloverfield was that here's a guy, what is he, Chris Collinsworth? Come on, man. That's supposed to document a birthday party. That when all hell breaks loose, and at times he can really use two free hands, he wants to keep the camera rolling. Just seemed impractical. This, however, makes sense. They were literally there to try and capture spooky shit. The first hour is way better than the last half hour. I agree with that. But overall, it's enjoyable. I hated the hokey thousand arms coming through the wall. And the very last scene in the tunnel's operating room went on for about 8 minutes too long. But I really liked the rose red factor of the facility changing itself and taking them hostage. It really made you think that maybe they're just going crazy, and that the only time they turn on the camera is at night. But they think it's just never daylight again. My biggest beef, however, is how did this footage get found? I really wish we got to see Lance get free, because as it stands, the facility had them in prison, and they, not their belongings, would ever be heard from again. Well, that's not what happens in the sequel, pal. Supposedly. His favorite kill, Morgan. That's my least favorite. At least we got to see some cool effects with him being lifted and thrown. Least favorite kill, Sasha. What the fuck happened? I wanted a bigger payoff. Rating, he gave it a 5.75. Started over my own words there, brothers.
Yeah, so my favorite kill was Matt in the elevator, like I kind of talked about before. My least favorite kill was the rat because it was fucking disgusting. And, so just to sum it up, like, I know I was rough on the ending, but up until that, like I said, I was at an 8 or a 9. Just some choices I would have done differently. But all in all, it was a very cool, nostalgic trip to the 90s when I used to watch these shows a lot. I'm actually going to give this the same score that Mike gave it, 6.75.
Alrighty, and I'll read Danny's now. I found this movie while on a found footage kick a few years ago and fell in love with it right away. I was always a huge fan of paranormal hunting TV shows, so to find something that poked fun at what would happen if one of these shows found actual ghosts was funny to me. That's fair. I also love anything set in abandoned asylum, so this movie ticked lots of boxes right away for what I enjoy in a movie. When TC and Lance begin to argue, I can really feel a Blair Witch Project influence, which made me like the movie even more. The character of Houston cracks me up. His death was my favorite. My least favorite death was Sasha, as she just kind of disappeared. I couldn't find many fun facts about this movie, but I learned it was filmed over just 10 nights and 2 days. Also, the film was said to be set in Maryland, but is filmed in BC, Canada. Additionally, the actor who plays Matt went on to be in things like Riverdale and Narcos, Jennifer's Body, and the Black Christmas remake, so he did pretty well. And she didn't write it there, but she told me that she gave this movie an 8.5. And I'm just going to do our cumulative score real quick.
Okay. Nico bringing us down, man. Jeez.
Sorry, man. I can't help it. We got to keep it 100, right? Right. But still, IMDb gave this movie with 56,480 reviews a 6.1. And guess what? The Don't Go Out There crew gave it with Danny's rating. 6.15.
Let's go. Almost like we know what we're doing when IMDb agrees with us, of course.
Except with Cloverfield. They don't
only when they agree with us.
400,000 votes.
Congratulations on 400,000 wrong votes. Anyway, whatever.
Wow.
Well, we know J.J. Abrams paid for all those. But anywho,
yeah, those are padded numbers.
Any final
on IMDb.
thoughts?
They don't know what they're doing.
Right.
Any final thoughts on Grave Encounters, you guys?
No, I'm glad.
No, I don't think so. I'm glad we got to watch it.
Yeah, thank you, Danny, for picking it and being a blood donor. And look, I'm glad I got to watch the film because again, it makes me want to see the second one just to kind of see where the story goes. It's got mixed reviews, and again, thank you, Ed Joe Black Tattoo, so much for your fandom and finding our show and sharing our stuff and listening to what looks like every episode, which again we really just appreciate. You could have picked anything but a Serbian film, and I would have been happy that you guys finally got to pick one for us to review. So thank you again. I really appreciate it. Just please don't pick that film.
Oh, we're not. I'm not going to do that one. I'll be straight up. I'm not going to watch that movie.
No.
Just like Mike said, Danny, Joe, really appreciate you guys. Like I've mentioned in previous episodes, we got fans who will message us like the morning after we get done reviewing the movie. And it's like, when's the episode coming out? Because they love the show so much. And I'll be honest, I mean, that makes my day every time you tell me that.
Absolutely.
It's super exciting that y'all love to listen to our show. Really appreciate it, Danny. Let's shout out our blood donors. We really appreciate all of our blood donors. Camp Level Reoccurring are Clayton J., Nina, Michelle Mirza, Andrew Ferguson, Carrie Adams, the Horror Movie Crew Podcast, Alex Seligson, Eric Doolittle, and Sean Irwin. Our Camp Counselor Reoccurring are Hunter Nelson, Karen, Dennis Kennedy, Edwin Hernandez Gunn, and Joe Swinford. Really appreciate y'all. Our legendary blood donors, we just had Missy Wall on. We did Tourist Trap. Y'all check that out if you haven't listened to it yet. And Sean and Sarah Irwin, appreciate y'all. And our final girl donor, we finally got to review her movie, DaniCNaps. Just thank you all to all of our blood donors. Y'all take a big burden off of us to help pay for this stuff.
Absolutely.
Any final thoughts?
No, I think we're good.
All righty. Just want to thank
you. And
absolutely. Excuse me. Just want to thank all our fans. We really appreciate y'all. Go check out our last episode, Mayhem. Mike went on a hilarious Dave Matthews Band rant, and that was probably the highlight of my week, honestly. Couldn't stop laughing. But this show was fun. I enjoyed doing it. I'm glad the guys do it with me. It's a blast, and having fans who are super excited about listening makes it even better. Appreciate y'all. Y'all have a good one.